Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacy. You're joining us for our Leaders and Legends segment. Joining us by phone today, we have guest Sunny Bonnell, branding expert and founder of Motto, with us. Welcome to the show, Sunny.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I want to give everyone a little background on Sunny and her company Motto. Motto is a comprehensive branding firm that works with companies and entrepreneurs who are eager to build remarkable brands. Under her leadership, Motto is the company behind several well-known brand campaigns, including Orison, which was the challenger to the Tesla Powerwall, which launched on Kickstarter and surpassed their goal by 7 times. Also, the rebranding of USA Today's Humankind Digital Video Initiative, and the branding and digital platform for Johnny Cupcake's personal brand, who has become one of the most relevant motivational business speakers for today's generation. Sunny is also a speaker, a storyteller, and a wordsmith. She pens articles for Forbes and Inc. magazine and is a member and contributor for the YEC, an elite organization comprised of the world's most successful entrepreneurs. And I know that she has a book coming out at the end of the year. We'll have to have Sunny back when that book comes out. So, Sunny, you tell us a little bit about your company, Motto.
Well, you summed it up great, but I can certainly add to that. So Motto, we started Motto, my partner and I, Ashley, back in 2005, and we started with $250 in our bank account. No one had ever heard of us, and we had never worked for another agency. Since then, that's been a little over 11 years now. Since then, we've grown the agency to working with companies all over the world, some of them that you just mentioned. So we've definitely had quite the journey, but one that's been filled with a lot of intriguing stories and inspiring stories of working with a diverse range of clients with a lot of different branding challenges and really leading them to success. So it's a great career.
Awesome. So what is branding?
Well, a lot of people have a very convoluted idea, I think, of what branding is. Because the meaning of brand has really evolved over time, everyone that you talk to and everything that you read sort of leads to this different definition of what a brand is and therefore what branding is. And I think this has caused a lot of confusion, specifically in the business world. Even experts in our field can't even agree and define what branding is. Sometimes they use a lot of jargon that's really muddled. So our way of describing it is kind of taking it back to the historic root for brand, which actually means to burn by fire. So when we define brand, we think of brand as almost like the imprint that you leave on those around you, whether it's your employees or your audience or those that love you and those that sort of despise you. Branding is the deliberate effort that you make to say, this is who I am to the world. And so, for us, it's really the process of defining, shaping, and influencing both visually and verbally the story that and the meaning that you want your audience to experience from your organization, if that makes sense.
Yes.
It does.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's interesting because you hear branding all the time, but you don't even think of the fact like branding a cow, like leaving the mark behind. So,
yeah, well, absolutely. And we actually it's so funny. In the 11 years that we've been doing this, we had never received an inquiry about anyone wanting to brand something like on a their cattle. And I just got the inquiry a couple of days, and I think it's because we relocated to Texas. But I got an email from somebody who said, I'm looking to create a brand to brand my cattle. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. I mean, we've never had that happen in all the years that we've done it, but I guess there's a first for everything.
Yes, that's awesome. So can you give us some examples of how you've helped companies with branding and leadership initiatives, including any unusual challenges and how you made a measurable difference for those businesses?
Yeah, I think probably there's a couple of different projects that we've worked on that I think had very distinct challenges and how we overcame them. One specifically is Johnny Cupcakes, who is based in Boston, actually.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with his store down there on Newbury Street, I think it is.
Is it an actual cupcake store?
No, it's T-shirts, I think.
Oh, all right.
His thing is that he tricks hungry people every day, but he created this apparel brand that is based out of Boston. He's a really inspiring leader, has built an amazing brand based out of Boston. And, we worked with him on his speaking career, because basically he had grown this company from out of the back of a Toyota Camry about 11 or 12 years ago, grew it, made it global, basically took it to London and Martha's Vineyard and grew it outside of Boston, and then started to get requests for him to come and speak to colleges and universities on how to build a brand like he had. People tattoo his logos. People, wait outside for days just to buy T-shirts. And that's truly remarkable in today's day and age. I mean, there's a lot of apparel companies out there, but I can't imagine myself waiting, or camping out in a tent in a line just to get it, and he's just really connected with his audience on such a brilliant way. And so when he came to us, his challenge was, everybody knows me as Johnny Cupcakes. His real name is Johnny Earl. And he said, I want to start doing something a little bit different. I've grown my brand. I've been really excited about what I've been doing, but I now want to teach what I've learned. And so he came to us with a very unique challenge, which was he wanted to launch JohnnyEarl.com aside from JohnnyCupcakes.com and start to put him in more of the forefront as a thought leader and speaker. And so our challenge was to really keep an alignment between his existing brand, which is very, very visual, and anyone that sees it never really forgets it, but to align it alongside of that, but also to give him his own identity almost outside of Johnny Cupcakes, which, he's synonymous with Johnny Cupcakes. So it was sort of like, it was a big challenge. And so we worked very closely with him to launch that and get him on that platform. And so far he's spoken in front of Apple. He has spoken in front of L'Oreal. He's flown all around the world, to Adobe, to Inbound. He's just been everywhere since the launch of that site. And we really feel like we've done a great job at communicating that for him, through the brand and through the website. So it really took off for him in that way.
Wow. So interestingly, I recently wrote an article for Entrepreneur Magazine on Kickstarter campaigns, trying to figure out, why do some... It seems to have very little to do with the actual product that's being sold, but why do some Kickstarter campaigns make millions and others struggle? So what's your take on that?
Well, I think that Kickstarter is a unique platform, and I think why some companies really do remarkable things and then others don't is a series of things. So you had mentioned Orison, which is one of our clients. They just went up against the Tesla Powerwall. They're a client of ours, Orison is, and we worked with them to not only name the brand, help them define the products, but also to create a Kickstarter campaign and storyline around how they were going to essentially raise capital. And so, their goal originally was $50,000. They blew past that within, I think, something like 36 hours and ended up grossing 7 times that. So they ended up with $350,000 in funding. Wow. I think one of the keys is that they actually did have a great product. They had a great product, and it was something that people needed to know and to learn about, and it was something that was very innovative. And I think that's one aspect of it. But I also think that there's other Kickstarter campaigns that have some very ordinary things, but it's the way that they tell the story, whether it's through video, whether it's through language, whether it's through the narrative somehow, and really the brand, whatever those kind of key components are, I think really start to paint a picture for the people who are backing it. And so I think the ones that don't do a good job of that, the ones that don't tell a great story, don't really persuade anybody to kind of get on board and get inspired by what they're doing, oftentimes just don't perform as well or don't raise enough capital. So, it's kind of there's a lot of multifacets to why something succeeds or doesn't. But I think a brand is a big part of that, and really being able to succinctly tell the story and stand for something in a way that people get excited about, and then they're willing to put their money down on it.
So what about big brands like Coca-Cola, Disney, Google? Why do brands like that stand out?
Well, I think these companies all have a very distinct point of view, and as we discussed earlier, sort of a narrative, that is thoughtfully and intentionally built. They stand out because they stand for something, and there's ideas that are clearly associated with them. So, in today's marketplace, if you're unsure about who you are and you can't communicate succinctly, you're bound to be forgotten. So the commonality that brands like Coca-Cola and Disney and Google have is these companies are not arbitrarily put together. You know, they have very carefully crafted identities in the world. You know, take Disney, for example. The brand ties back to Walt. You know, Walt Disney. He first had a vision. He deeply loved the brand, and he catapulted the brand forward. And so in this sort of Me Too world, companies have to work harder and harder to communicate who they are. And if you want to lead an extraordinary company like a Coca-Cola and a Disney and a Google, it starts at really, I think, loving the brand in a way that's very deep and sacred. And I also think that you have to have a point of view, and you have to be able to communicate that point of view and have others believe, you know, sort of buy into the belief of what you're selling. Otherwise, you know, you're just doing work that doesn't matter. And I think these companies, you know, when you look at historically what they've done and the heritage of what they were able to communicate and do in the world, it's like each aspect and every step forward was so thoughtful. Even if they kind of veered off course, they quickly snapped back into place because they had a deeper purpose for what they were doing. And so those companies, I think, have a very deep purpose, and I think that's why they have longevity.
Wow. Well, I can tell you so far, Sunny, I'm not going to be able to wait till December for your book. Sounds like some awesome stuff. Anybody listening, by the way, you can check out Sunny's business at wearemotto, MOTTO.com to learn more about her. Let me ask you, what is the difference between purpose-driven branding and traditional branding?
Sure. So, and thanks for that, by the way. I'm excited to be back on. So purpose-driven brands they're driven by a purpose. You know, they really know what they stand for. They know what what they believe in, and they know why they exist beyond sort of this idea of making money. And so companies that we work with who lead with their purpose they're known as much for their values and what they stand for, almost more than the products and services that they sell. And so they often look at the brand very holistically, and they almost use that purpose to differentiate them in the marketplace. I think traditional branding, not that it's terribly different in that, you know, the execution of certain things are the same, meaning like, you know, if you're designing a logo or you're designing packaging or maybe you're designing a website, those are all deliverables and the result of some of the work that you do. But I think the approach is a little bit different. Not all companies, I think, sadly, are driven by a greater purpose, meaning like, why are you getting out of bed? Why are you going to work? Why do people need to know who you are and what you're selling? You know, anybody can make a really great product. Not everyone can have a great company and a great brand or lead a remarkable and extraordinary organization that other people want to work for and devote their time to. So what we see in our work is that when we're working with companies that are really primarily sales-driven and interested in playing more of the short game, maybe they're just looking to get acquired, or maybe, you know, that's just not really their heartbeat of the organization. You know, we find that those companies are harder sometimes to work with because there's nothing to sink your teeth into. So for us, like we kind of thrive on working with companies and organizations that really do feel like they're contributing something to the conversation in the world, and, you know, trying to make it more than just, I've got a great product. They're actually telling a story that you can identify with. And so that's what I think the real difference between those two types of approaches or different types of companies are.
So do you help companies find their story? Like if they're not even sure what their story is?
Absolutely. I mean, most of the companies, so we often work with, we have two very distinct types of clients. We work with companies that are startups and entrepreneurs, meaning they're launching a brand or starting a company from scratch. And often those companies don't have the heritage that, say, our second type of client has, which is maybe they've been in business for a long time, and either they've had a story at one point or they've lost connection to that story, or maybe as they've grown and scaled, things become fuzzier because, you know, as you grow and as you get bigger, things don't become as nimble as they used to be. You know, you don't know everybody's name, like, you know, and it becomes harder and harder for you to essentially connect in the way that you did and have the excitement that you did when you first started. So when companies come to us at these different points in time, their challenges are very different, but our approach is kind of the same. We want to almost be like a brand archaeologist where we're really getting to the heart of who they are first and foremost. So then we can either get them back to a place of clarity, or the opposite of that is to kind of take them from a place of where they're excited and they're passionate and they do know what they're trying to do in the world, and they have a vision, and being able to kind of connect them to what that purpose is and then give them the language around that to be able to communicate it fully to the world. Because I think if I were to describe any challenge at all that companies have, it's that well, let me back up. I think the thing that companies struggle with the most, no matter if they're a startup or they're a scaling company or an existing brand that's been in business for a long time, I think the thing that these companies struggle with the most is the articulation of meaning. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is when you ask companies, what do you do and why do you do it? They often cannot answer the question. And the reason is because they go to things like, well, we have great culture, we have great products, or we have great services, or our employees are the differentiation. But the reality is they can't really tell you sometimes why, mm-hmm. or even have the language for the business beyond making and growing and scaling. And so that's where I think our gift is to be able to go into organizations, both big and small, and help them clearly identify who they are and then bring that to life through the brand. So instead of just kind of approaching it as like, I'm going to give you a new logo and a new website, mm-hmm. we're really looking at the company from a holistic point of view and saying, what is it that you're really in the world to do? And then we begin to give you language to describe that, which then translates into the decisions that we make on behalf of the brand in order to essentially bring it forward into the marketplace. Meaning, what is the story that we're telling to everyone else if we're caught in an elevator or they're on our website? What is the language that we're communicating? And so essentially that's kind of where our work is at and where we found our sweet spot is really there.
Wow. I could go on all afternoon chatting with you. Unfortunately, our time is about up. So best place to find you, wearemotto.com.
wearemotto.com.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. wearemotto.com. This is Sunny Bonnell, co-founder of Motto, award-winning branding and design firm.
Thanks for joining us, Sunny.
Thanks for having me on.
That's going to do it for this edition of Get Real. Join us again next weekend for more.